everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial for how to get a really skin-like makeup look. Something really natural, looks like you're not wearing makeup on your skin at all. I actually had the opportunity to teach a masterclass on this topic at our Seint reunion. I got to go on the big stage and do a presentation to all of my fellow artists and do a demonstration live on stage. It was probably the pinnacle of my Seint career over the last 6 years, and it was just the most fun. If you are not a Seint artist who is at reunion with me in Atlanta, then you missed my masterclass. So I've put together all of the same tips that I gave there here for you. So let's get started. I will be doing this makeup look. It's just really natural. It really doesn't look like I'm wearing tons of makeup, and when you look at my skin, you can't see the makeup. It just looks like skin, and that's the goal. And I'm going to show you now how I did it. Okay, let's get started. The first step in any really good makeup routine is obviously skin prep. You're going to want to start with clean, moisturized skin. You definitely want to use a moisturizer regardless of your skin type, because you're going to want to minimize any dry patches that your makeup is going to want to stick to. You want a really plump, moisturized base. For example, before I do my makeup in the morning, I like to use a vitamin C serum and then a light moisturizer and then my favorite sunscreen. I will list the favorites that I've been using in the description. Seint recently came out with a prep and set collection of new products, and I've been using them lately and I love them. So to prep my skin, I've been using the Plush Prep Mist. So this is a priming mist for the skin. It has hyaluronic acid, glycerin for adding that moisture. It has caffeine in it to really plump up and energize the skin. Anyway, I've really been loving this under my makeup. So what I do is get the hair out of the way and go to town. That spray really plumps up the skin and leaves almost a little bit of a tacky feeling so your makeup can really stick to it. So my first tip for really skin-like makeup is to use less makeup. More makeup, more layering of products will look more makeup-y. So if you want to look really natural, just try to use the smallest amount possible. And one way that you can really do that is by adding color to the skin first, leaving your foundation for last and starting with contouring, bronzing, blush, all the ways that you add color to the skin. Do that first, and you might find that you need less concealer or foundation than you thought you might need. I'm going to start by contouring. I'm going to be using this shade right here. This is Ash Contour. I'm using my detail brush to just tap that underneath my cheekbones, blend upward, just really defining my cheekbones here, adding a little bit of shadow underneath them. I also obviously recommend using a cream product with makeup because it is the most skin-like of all the different kinds of makeup, in my opinion. If you use a powder or a liquid makeup, they tend to sort of just sit on top of the skin, but with creams, it's like it melts into the skin, kind of like butter, and it just looks the most skin-like. So I'm just doing my normal contouring routine. I just did along my hairline and the perimeters of my face. Now I'm taking the edge of my brush and just kind of going down the side of my nose to really define my nose. And I always like to put a little bit under the bottom lip too. And now I'm going to go in with bronzer. This is Bella Bronzer. This is a really great cream sheer formula. And this is just really going to even out my skin tone, add some warmth, just tone the skin in a really flattering way. And now, even though it might sound backwards, I'm actually going to do blush. So I'm going to add some pink grapefruit blush. I know it seems backwards, but adding bronzer and contour and blush to your cheeks might camouflage a lot of the things that you might normally use foundation to cover up anyway. So there's really just no reason to layer them. So I like doing this step first because doing all of this adding color will show me the final product of what my makeup will look like. And then I can just use foundation or concealer to get rid of anything that's still bothering me that I don't want to see. Okay, my next tip, don't use concealer. Don't need it. I don't own concealer, haven't used concealer in years. I use color correctors to filter away anything that I don't want to see. By using color correctors, you're actually going to be using color science and color theory to hide things on your face rather than piling on a skin toned product, which will just look more makeup-y. These are invisible on the skin. They actually hide things in your skin completely invisibly, and they look like your natural skin. I'm gonna start with the eye area because I feel like the number one thing that people want to know is how to cover up and hide their dark circles under their eyes. Most people will just take a concealer, swipe it under the eye, make it all one color and call it a day. And that's fine if that's what you want to do. But if you want that area to look as natural and skin-like as possible, there are other things that you can do instead. The first thing I'm going to do might feel backwards to a lot of people because we're taught from a young age that darkness under the eyes is bad and all we need to do is focus on getting rid of the darkness. But the thing is that's only half of the equation. Usually most people have a lot of light areas around the eyes, and it's the combination of the light spots and the dark spots and the contrast between the two of them that makes the eye area so distracting. So, you know, my under eyes are admittedly not that bad or dark, but I'm working with what I got here. So I have some darkness right here, like most people in the tear trough area. I have, you know, veins that you can see under the skin right here that are kind of dark. But if you look, I also have like this area right here. You see how this area right here is a lot lighter than the skin around it? And like right here is a lot lighter than the skin around it. It's the contrast between these light spots and the dark spots that just is so distracting to the eye. So the first step that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add color to these light areas. And then when I'm done adding the color, I'll see what's still distracting and I'll use my color correctors to remove any dark spots. So I'm actually going to use my cream bronzer here on a small brush to precisely add color to these light areas. A little bit too much on my brush, but I'll blend it out. You want to use a very small amount. You don't want it to look bronzed. You don't want it to look like you're bronzing your eye area or anything crazy like that. But you just want to melt away those light areas so that it really blends into the rest of the skin. So now, do you see the difference already? I haven't added any light shades to hide any darkness. I just added color around my eye area. And you see how it sort of blends in with the rest of my face and has so much more balance? So now all that's left to do is to go in with my Demi color correctors to remove any remaining dark spots so that the dark and light spots come together in the middle and they're balanced. So I'm going to be using orange. Just going to use a teeny tiny brush and just barely tap it into this color. And I'm just going to lightly apply this wherever I see any dark spots that are standing out to me. Most people will just need to use orange around their eyes because any kind of darkness in the skin is excess blue of some form. You might need to do a little bit of a yellowish orange or a pinkish orange, but you'll most likely need some kind of orange around the eye area. So I apply it as gently as possible and then fluff over it with the other side of the brush to really make sure that it's just completely melted into the skin. I have one more little spot right here that I like to filter, this vein. But that's it. That's all I do for my eye area. I don't use one concealer. I add bronzer and a little bit of color corrector, and it just looks more even, more smooth, more balanced. I'm gonna get up close so you can see. So there you can kind of, it's not perfect, it's not flawless, but it is natural looking, and it is a little bit more improved and a little bit more awake and a little bit more youthful. And that's kind of what I'm going for. I'm not going for it to look like a porcelain doll, all one color. I want to look like myself. I just want my under eyes to be less distracting so that when you look at my face, you're looking at my face and not my under eyes. Now I'm just going to do the other eye. Okay, the eye area is done, on to the next. I'm also going to use my color correctors to address this redness that I have around my nose, you know, like blemishes, things like that. The redness around my nose, as you can see, it's pretty common. A lot of people have these broken capillaries around their nose. This is a blue violet. So I know that it looks like it's redness, but it's actually excess violet in the skin. Learning how to do color correctors really requires you to learn what excess colors look like in the skin and sort of undo some preconceived notions you might have about color correcting. I have a lot of other videos that explain that in more depth if you want to see. But to deal with this blue violet around my nose, I'm going to be using orange again, but this is a really vibrant yellow orange. And with a small brush, I'm just actually going to tone this whole area very lightly with that color. And it's gonna look like I'm kind of not doing anything, but that's the point. I'm using the color to make a difference, and I'm not relying on the opacity of the makeup to cover anything. I'm just sort of creating an optical illusion where the redness is less visible. Now I'm gonna switch and I'm gonna use a little bit more yellow because I think there's just a lot of violet peeking through still. And see, now the redness around my nose is a lot less visible, but it's not covered up by a thick concealer that's going to crease in the corners of my nose or like look really funky throughout the day. It's just gonna look invisible. I have a couple lovely blemishes that I'm going to be addressing. These are in the healing process, so they're kind of dark. You see how this one almost looks like a dark purple? That means that it's mostly excess blue down here. So I'm actually going to use orange on this guy. And I'm going to use a little bit of a yellow orange again on this spot right here. Got a little too much on my brush. You really don't need a lot. You don't even almost want to see that you're applying it. You want it to just look sort of invisible, even as you're applying it. It should look more like you're wiping away the spot you're trying to hide as opposed to covering it with product, if that makes sense. That's it, gone, magic. Okay, I mean, we're pretty much done with the final product of what we want the makeup to look like, and now would be the time, finally, when you would apply your all-over highlight foundation. One thing I do want to note is you want to make sure that you're using the correct shade of highlight foundation. You'll want the color that you use to match your skin exactly or even be a little bit darker than your all over skin tone. If you use a shade that's too light, it's not going to blend and melt into the skin. It's going to sort of sit on top. It's going to look streaky or just look makeup-y. If you use a deeper color, it's going to really melt into the skin and blend away, and that's what you want. So I'm basically going to do my highlight anywhere where I don't have other makeup or anywhere where I just really need more coverage over a larger area. And I like to use a fluffy brush to do this. This is the Shape brush by Seint. I really like to use this end. It's very, very fluffy. And the reason I like to do that is because it really creates an airbrushed, light coverage, flawless look. You can always do a brush with more dense bristles for more full coverage, but I like a really no makeup skin-like look, and this will help you achieve that. So I'm just going to dip into my main highlight shade, and I'm going to apply that anywhere where I don't have my other makeup and I want more coverage. For me, that's around the mouth, chin, and lower jawline for sure. So just anywhere where I didn't have that contour. And I like to just sort of bounce the brush around to distribute the product, and then if there's anywhere that needs to be blended still, I'll just do very light circles. Maybe add a little bit to the forehead, but I don't feel like I need too much coverage up here, so I'm probably going to leave it bare. Don't add makeup to an area if you don't need it. I mean, really, you don't need to apply a single layer of foundation all over your face, make it all one color, and then add more color back in. It's just a lot of unnecessary steps and unnecessary makeup. Okay, I went ahead and just did my brows off camera really quick. Now let's do some finishing touches. Now, if you like to set your makeup, if you must use a powder, you can. I just usually recommend that you use a translucent powder, something that's really finely milled to look as natural as possible. My favorite lately is the Feather Blotting Dust from Seint. This is a really, really velvety soft, like the softest powder I've ever felt. It's almost like you can't feel yourself touching it. It's so soft. I love that it sets my makeup, but it still looks skin-like. It has a little bit of a sheen to it that looks like skin. I like to use a fluffy brush to use this powder. So I like to just lightly dust this wherever I want to set my makeup so that it doesn't crease and just lasts throughout the day and doesn't look too shiny. It's always a good idea to use a setting spray or facial mist at the end of your makeup. Seint just came out with this one. This is the Fixate setting spray. This is very similar to the original Seint setting spray, but they've added aloe vera and coconut water, so it's extra moisturizing and soothing to the skin. So just hold away from the face and spray everywhere. And then if you'd like, you can use a dampened perfector sponge to just sort of dab all over the skin. And this is going to melt all the different makeup together, press the setting spray into the makeup, and just really make it look seamless and natural and skin-like. And that's it. That's the final look. Those are all of my best tips for getting a makeup look that looks like your skin. If you have any questions, you can comment them down below, or you can always fill out my color match form and I will send you an email with all of the colors that I think would work best for your skin tone. And I'll see you next time. Bye.